I'm Rosanne Ullman. I wrote this for Modern Salon 25 years ago to celebrate 75 years of Modern Salon, and now we are at 100 years of Modern Salon, and I'm reading it. We're doing the history called Always Modern, and we're up to the 1930s. The 30s, tougher times, toughen up an industry. The price of the perm says it all. In the late 1920s, beauty salons charged an average of $20 for a perm. But 5 years later, that price had plummeted to $6.50. And during the following 3 years, some salons would charge as little as 75 cents. At first, the outlook seemed all bad. The stock market crash of October 1929 had left the beauty industry with price cuts, product and equipment knockoffs, and pressure from union organizers. As the 1930s dawned and the reality of the Great Depression set in, the industry fretted that women who no longer had money for luxuries might be forced to forego the services of the beauty shop. Indeed, the feared shakeout of businesses within virtually every industry did come to pass among beauty salons. At the very end of the decade, Beauticians Supply Company of Minneapolis checked the local telephone directory and found only 50 of the 220 beauty salons that had been listed 12 years earlier. Yet, as it turned out, the situation was not all bad. Part of the reason perm prices collapsed was that perm machines and supplies had become relatively inexpensive to manufacture, so salons were paying out less and thus able to sustain enough of a profit margin for many to stay in business. The new price ranges proved more affordable to the masses, and rather than a luxury, beauty services and products became a necessity for a greater percentage of American women. Saying that a woman will spend her last pennies on a tube of lipstick very well may have been coined in the early 1930s. Those 50 salons remaining in the Minneapolis phone book were joined by an additional 450 that had been launched during this volatile time. So at final count, salons more than doubled their numbers. Not every industry fared the Depression as well. Many of the salons that succumbed during the early 30s were the cut-price shops that hired unskilled operators and used the cheapest products and equipment, sometimes concocting formulas in the back room and fraudulently pouring them into manufacturer-labeled bottles. Little by little, the consumer wised up and patronized salons that maintained a higher level of professionalism. Professionalism and philanthropy. In the end, the tumultuous 30s helped the entire salon industry to define itself. New laws clarified the parameters of a beauty license. As the economy improved, salons learned to position themselves by pricing to attract a target market. Beauty schools, many of which at first took advantage of the depressed economy to student staff low-priced salons and never actually train the students, slowly began to either fold or professionalize. Levels of trust and cooperation increased between salon owners and product distributors or jobbers. As if the 1930s didn't already practically define the word hardship, 2 consecutive years of floods, tornadoes, and earthquakes devastated the country. As always, the socially conscious beauty industry took care of its own through a branch of the Orphan Fund that had been established during the 20s, while jobbers extended credit to their salon customers. Feisty fashion thrives. Depression or no depression, fashion moved ahead at a feverish pace. The kicky, short-fringed skirts of the 20s gave way to long, sleek suits and dresses whose hemlines began to rise only toward the end of the 30s. Against the drab colors of the breadlines and the monotonous hum of "Buddy, can you spare a dime?" emerged a rich elegance in fashion and hairdressing that somehow did not seem odd or out of place. While mannish styles reigned in business apparel, women never lost their taste for feminine evening wear. Body services like massage, facials, scalp treatments, skin bleaching, weight control techniques, and makeup application remained popular and provided a hedge against any drop in perm revenues. As a forerunner to the half-day of beauty, several body services were sometimes packaged together. When open-toed pumps and sandalfoot dress shoes came into fashion, quick-thinking salon owners took out ads to market their pedicures. Retail provided another profit center for salons, as some stocked cosmetics, hair products, and all sorts of small gift items. The tug between long and short hair continued throughout the decade. Most cosmetologists did their best to keep women in short, curly styles that required frequent cuts, perms, and finger waves, which were salons' bread and butter services. The short look stayed close to the head and varied between tight pin curl styles and softer waves. When the longer page boy came into fashion in the mid-30s, a segment of the industry went into a minor panic, fearful of losing their cut and perm business. A few played up the myriad needs of long, shiny, straight hair, a professional shampoo and brushing, color, reverse roll setting, and even a perm to act as a sort of body wave, which they termed shadow wave or deep wave. The industry began to feel its own power of influence when short and curly prevailed. At one point, some stylist somewhere dreamed up the notion of the curly haircut, that cutting hair in a certain way would turn straight hair curly without a perm. It was all done with proper hair thinning and shaping and played on the fact that the client's natural wave had been weighted down with length. When other salons borrowed the idea, a cutting renaissance ensued and ironically boosted perm business at the same time. It also was the beauty industry that launched colored nail polish. Previously, manicurists had finished nails with stiff buffing, and in the early 30s with a clear polish. But once manufacturers displayed an ever-changing spectrum of fashion nail colors to match lipsticks, women were hooked. Hollywood rules. Many things influenced hair fashion at the time, but one element prevailed. Like their 1920s counterparts, movie actresses of the 30s enjoyed changing their looks regularly and watching American women follow suit. Norma Shearer, Fay Wray, Betty Davis, Barbara Stanwyck, Gloria Stewart, Joan Crawford, and others kept their hairdressers busy interpreting trends, while curly-topped child star Shirley Temple sent hordes of children beating paths to the perm machine. In color, it was all henna and gray coverage until Jean Harlow single-handedly generated a national hair explosion in platinum blonde. Pivotal developments. Back in the factories, the evolution of new products and equipment continued unabated. Modern-era cash registers printed out bookkeeping records. Easy-to-clean chrome gave salon furniture durability and a fashion flair of its own, while linoleum did the same for floors. Hair dryers became much more efficient. Manicure machines and eyebrow tweezers went electric. First, perm machines improved with heat controls and timing devices, then began to very gradually disappear as Zotos patented the first machineless wave, and other companies followed with their own versions. Some products that we take for granted today, most notably hairspray and the aforementioned colored nail polish, debuted during the 30s. The first home perms showed up on drugstore shelves, but fizzled early because they just weren't all that good. The decade also saw the beginning of exclusive products for the salon, with ads billing them as not available in department stores. Cooled air becomes the hottest trend. But the most important advancement in the salon industry of the 1930s had nothing to do with beauty. It was air conditioning that transformed salons from a fall and spring business to a year-round thriving industry. The hotter the day, the busier salons became, as women who lacked air conditioning in their own houses sought refuge in the comfort of their cool new home away from home. As salons became cleaner and better equipped, as they employed more highly trained staffs, as management and marketing methods grew more sophisticated and lobbying efforts gained recognition, the industry established itself as a major player on the American field of business. It emerged from the Depression not only intact, but as somewhat of a weather vane for which way the general economy's wind was blowing throughout the 1930s. At the close of the decade, one eye turned toward Europe, where a new war was affecting business on a wide scale. And that is the 1930s, time of a lot of change. Next, the 40s.